Okay, so while my horsemanship video takes a full hour and 30 minutes to upload to YouTube, I can get started on recording the rest of these videos. So, if you did not watch the showmanship video, that is perfectly fine. You probably weren't showing in showmanship, so it didn't matter. So, this video is going to be on the horsemanship, and I'm going to go in the order that is given here, starting with the younger group, then the older, followed by the grand champion class. And just like with showmanship, we should always ask ourselves, oh, my name's Madison. You can read who I am. So, you should always ask yourself, what is the judge going to be looking for? What is it in the pattern that is going to make it easy and difficult? And then again, what is going to be easy and difficult in the pattern, and what is going to be more easy or difficult for you and your horse personally? Next, always ask yourself, where do I need to be? Where do you need to be in relation to cones? Where do you need to be in relation to other things that you did? So, how much space are you allowing for your maneuvers? And lastly, how are you planning for success? And you do that by doing the other things, taking time and really thinking about and planning what exactly you need to do to make you and your horse successful. And checklist, just like with the showmanship. I always like to bring with me fly spray. I also like to have a brush or two. If you have a fake tail, bring a comb or something to fluff up the tail. You can also use a stiff bristle brush. I like having, a variety. And also making sure that you have a rag to like wipe off your boots after you get on and, wipe down your horse if it's really dusty. If it is raining, you obviously want to have like a coat or a jacket to have on. And try and keep your horse out of the rain as much as possible. It'll just make them happier overall if it is raining. You want to have all of your tack and equipment. If you are using earplugs on your horse, put those in before you get on and do everything. Don't forget about those. Making sure you have your spurs with you. All that good stuff. Check your cinch before you go in the pen or have someone else check it for you. Normally, in standing around, your horse will kind of relax and then your cinch will be loose again. So make sure before you go in for your pattern, you check your cinch. And last, but obviously the most important, is your number. In associate rules for any of your riding classes, you have to have the number on both sides of your pad, which is why you get 2 numbers. I personally like to put a layer of duct tape on the back side of my pad, so that way when I am pinning it, it lasts a little bit longer and it's a little bit more sturdy. You do not want to laminate or put clear tape over the top of your pad, because then when you are in the pen under light, it will be shiny and the judge can't read your number and it's annoying for them. So do not laminate or put clear tape over your pad, just put duct tape on the back. The more you know. So let's get into it. So the first pattern is the 6 through 9 horsemanship. So what I'm going to do is similar to what I did with the showmanship. I'm just going to read through everything, go through the pattern, and then get into why I have a really weird abstract piece of art on top of the pattern. So first and foremost, we are going to be ready at our start cone over here on the right side. The judges are likely going to be up in the bleachers over here or over here. Once they nod to you or wave, sometimes they have a little flag. You're going to start, you're going to jog, then you're going to do an extended jog. You're going to stop and back. You're going to pivot 180 on the hindquarters. You're going to walk. And you're going to lope on the right lead. You're going to jog. Lope on the left lead. Walk when even with A. Pattern is complete. So, well, I noticed, I'm going to flip to the next pattern really quick. This pattern, look at all these words. Look at all these things that they tell you. Look at all this. And then we go back. There's 1 word per number. So I'm going to tell you where you need to be for your maneuvers to make you successful, because this doesn't really tell you anything. So I'm going to explain first and foremost what my lines are. First, my blue line is my halfway between my stop way up here and my start cone. So halfway should be your blue line. Next, we have the yellow here, which is halfway from this line and this line. And I have two circles here, mostly to just give you reference in, hey, these need to be the same size. So, starting this again with my added, I guess, me commentary of what I would be thinking. So, first and foremost, I'm going to walk up to this cone. I'm going to walk up to this cone probably when the person in front of me is here in the center. That gives me enough time to get up to the cone, get my horse stopped, comfortable, in a place that I like, but not so much time that they're going to get bored standing there or they have time to fidget. If you know you have a horse that is nervous at the cone, you don't want to come in when the person in front of you is like just starting their pattern. Like you wouldn't want to leave the tunnel when they're like just starting. You would want to wait a little bit longer. So you're going to walk up to the cone, you're going to pick something down here straight, and you are going to walk from like back here up, staring at that, stopping even with your horse's nose at the cone. Then you're going to wait and watch the judges. So there, I gotta preface this, I'll hopefully say it for the other classes. There is a misconception that by having your horse on a loose rein, you automatically get more points in horsemanship. I'm here to say that that is not true. Horsemanship and Western pleasure are not the same thing. You should not come into a horsemanship pattern with your reins the same length as you would for the Western pleasure, because the horsemanship is looking at how you, as a rider, are able to demonstrate these maneuvers with your horse. And obviously, by having your horse on a loose rein, you're not going to have as much control over your horse. Even if you have a super duper broke horse, you should not have your reins the same length for Western pleasure as the horsemanship. So, back to the pattern. You're going to jog, there's my mouse, halfway from A to wherever the stop is. And you're probably thinking, how far do I go? And I'm going to say that depends a lot on you and your horse. If you think you can make this really small, then you don't have to go as far. But just know that, so what I would probably do is, while, like, you're going to be in the Coliseum, right? And in the mornings or at night, if you're a night owl, which I was never, you can practice in the arena and just walk around, right? Like you can get a feel for how big the space is. And practice just jogging and doing an extended jog kind of in the middle-ish of the arena in a straight line on the rail. Get a feel for how much space there is. And then obviously you want to try and get out to the egg stare fairly early in the morning. I know parents with 6th and 7th graders are like, seriously? Yes, no, you want to try and get out into the egg stare or the Coliseum pretty early, so that way you can practice and get used to the size. I would recommend trying to make some circles in there just to feel how big it is, how much room you have, how much room you maybe don't have, and just practice that. So get a feel for how much room you need. If it was me, my trot would probably be 14 strides and my extended is probably 10, because you got to think your extended is air quotes faster, so you're covering more ground. Realistically, your extended jog should just be a lengthening of stride. So another thing that I should probably talk about, hopefully the other two groups didn't completely skip this section, your jog in the horsemanship. Please, if you have a super broke Western pleasure horse and you're showing in the horsemanship with a super tiny jog, like, don't do the tiniest Western pleasure jog. in the horsemanship. If you don't have a horse that's super broke, just do your normal jog here. If you have one that's super broke and it jogs a hole in the ground, don't jog a hole in the ground because this is going to take you 30 seconds and the judges are going to fall asleep. But for most people in this age group, I would say just do your normal jog here and just ask for a little bit more of an extended jog here. Basically, this should be the same pace as your sitting trot for equitation. Think about that. You need to be able to sit it. You're going to stop up here. You're going to back. Oh, it doesn't say how far. That's cool. So normally when they do that, I assume it's 1 horse length. If they just say stop and back, I assume it's 4 steps or 1 horse length. So back 4 steps. You're going to do a 180 to the left. And then we are going to walk. Notice, it does not say how far the walk is. However, we conveniently have our center line. So wherever you decide to put the center line, there is going to be posters on the walls. There's like in the Coliseum, there's posters. Every county has a poster. Or like maybe you tell mom or dad or grandma or whoever is there with you or a friend with a obnoxious lime green shirt or something to sit at a certain point, and that is your halfway. Find something, treat that as your halfway point, and keep that the same all the way across this arena. So you are going to do that, and once you get even with that point from your walk is when you're going to get your lope transition. Please plan ahead, set your horse up for the lope beforehand. Don't just like hi-ho tinsel and like kick him and go. You want to like plan ahead, try and keep contact, have a controlled circle. So half circle, I should say. So how they have this drawn and how I even put these circles in here. If I was thinking, I would have put in a D shape. So watch my pointer. I would go straight here for probably 3 strides, do my curve, and end up back here. And then this is completely straight, like my yellow line is. Don't do this curve here so you don't have much time on this straight line. And again, find when you're warming up in the morning, something down here. I don't think they leave the tractor in the pen for the horsemanship and stuff. I don't think they do, but there's got to be something down here that you can look at. So stare at that. Have that in your mind. Sit, ask your horse to break down to the trot. They shouldn't like stop here. They shouldn't break to the walk. It should just be a lope down to a trot. And then this needs to be the same size as this. So if you know you have a horse with a really big stride, or they aren't the slowest cantering, you probably want to plan to make this a hair smaller than you would think, and this a hair bigger than you would think, because you're not going as fast at the trot. Jog. I should be saying jog. We're in horsemanship. Anyway, you are going to jog this. It's going to be the same size here as it is here. You can also pick markers for these points that you keep in mind, but if it's too many things for you to think about, the main markers you need to pick is your halfway point for here and your halfway point for here that you look at. So you're going to do your trot. Again, you're going to prepare your horse. You're going to ask them for the left lead here, and then plan ahead a little bit so that way you break down to the walk here. Yeah, so you're going to break down once you're even with A, and even as in like between the horse's nose and the horse's shoulder is where you're going to want that breakdown to be. And then you're going to walk out of the pattern. I'm assuming with how this is set up, they're going to have you just go straight and then exit right away. So one last thing is, so obviously this cone is going to be a marker, and it's going to have you some distance from the rail. another good thing that you can kind of get a judge of how big they want this pattern is how far they put this cone off the rail. Because a horsemanship pattern should never be so big in your pen that you like bounce off of the rail. You shouldn't feel like you're going to the rail. You don't want to let your horse drag you to the rail. You should use the space in the arena and not the fence as a guide. So making sure you have things to look at all times. I think that is everything I have for the horsemanship. Good luck to everyone showing. Have fun. And that is all I have. 10 and up. Horsemanship. So, again, if you watch my showmanship, you're like, wow, the really ugly colored D shape is back in the middle of my pattern. Yes, it is. So, this one, you guys actually have 2 cones, and the 9 and up, or 6 through 9, only has 1. So, but you guys have a little bit more involved of a pattern, so that's fine, right? So I'm going to go through this pattern first. Interestingly, they say that you start with your horse's tail at A, and you're probably thinking, how am I going to get here? What am I going to do? So what I would do is one of 2 things. I personally would just walk in here and then just kind of like walk here and then just back a step or 2 and then have my horse ready at the cone. Make sure you don't back over this cone, okay? Like, don't do that. If you're worried about that, what you can do is walk and stop so you're facing either this way or this way, and then do a 90 pivot. So you would do a hip stop here, do a 90 pivot so you're facing this way. And then, you know, then you're set up and you're in the right spot. But either way, your horse's tail should be even with this and their body here. You shouldn't be over here, you shouldn't be over here. You should be right in front of the cone. You're gonna be at the cone. Judges are gonna be over here or over here in the stands. They'll either have a little flag or someone will wave at you, or they have their hat, they'll nod. Normally, because it's sometimes pretty far away, they'll have a flag or someone will wave. So just keep that in mind. Watch them. As soon as they wave to you, go. You know, they've got probably, I didn't look at the numbers, but probably over 100 people to judge in the horsemanship, so you don't want to dally. So once they acknowledge you, you're going to trot until you're even with B, extend a jog and a half circle to B, stop and perform a 180 turn on the right for the hindquarters, lope on the right lead in a half circle until even with B. Perform a lead change. It doesn't signify flying or simple lead change. I'm going to assume for the majority of people, including myself at the time, that you're just going to do a simple lead change. If you can do flying and you're comfortable with it, you've done it before and you've practiced it, you know what you're doing, do that. But for the most people, I'm going to consider it a simple lead change. You're then going to lope on the left lead to A in a half circle until you are even with A. You're then going to walk 2 horse lengths, stop and back 2 horse lengths, turn 180 degrees on the left, and then walk to exit. So the D shape is back, of course, because this needs to be a similar shape and size as this. And they give you your distance A to B based off of where they put the cones. So using that, you should have a rough size of how far you're going to make this curve to go over here in relation to this distance from the middle over here to here to here. So you know that. And you also know that a lot of your transitions happen when you are even with a cone. Pretty much every single one does, except for the stop. And I'll let you in on a secret. The stop is approximately halfway between A and B. And if that's the case, notice this is the drawing. What they actually have it set up as is what you would do. If this is 2 horse lengths, I would estimate that this distance here would be 4 horse lengths. And so I doubt that that's actually going to be. So go based off of the text, not necessarily distances here, because they're going to set it up huge. They always do in that giant coliseum, which makes sense. It's a big space, so you're going to have plenty of room. So, oh, another thing I need to preface this before I go on. I did it for the 6 through 9. There is a misconception that having your reins longer automatically gets you more points in the horsemanship. That is not true. Horsemanship is judged based of you as a rider and your ability to perform maneuvers with your horse and make them seem as flawless and seamless as possible. And doing so with a extremely long rein, or just a longer rein than normal, or what I would want, will make it more difficult to do so. So you want to have a rein that is short enough that if you pick up on your horse, you easily have contact. You should have contact with the mouth during the pattern. So that way you can do these advanced things in a timely and efficient and hopefully very pretty manner. So, jog. Talked about how to get there first. Extended jog. First off, if you have a horse with a short little Western pleasure jog, this should not be that. Your jog shouldn't be so slow that it takes you 30 seconds to get from A to B. Have a little bit of life. We're not in the Western pleasure. Look alive. So, jogging, extended jog. Extended jog is the lengthening of your horse's stride, not necessarily just booking it. Like, it shouldn't be just like a crazy out of control trot. Just a distinct difference in your speed here. You're going to stop even with B, do a 180. So notice you do a 180 turn to the right, and then you lope on the right lead. So when you get here, you're going to use your left leg to push him around, and then you're going to continue using your left leg to ask him into the lope. That is like the nicest thing that they could do for you, because then you don't have a pivot one way and then picking up the opposite lead. It's easier to remember. So if you think about it, you're going to turn to the right, then you're going to lope on the right lead. Then over here, you're going to lope on the left lead, you're going to back, and then you're going to turn to the left. So to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left. Yeah. So you're going to do that. Lope on the right lead in a half circle. Notice that this lope is bigger than your trot, but both of them are kind of a D half circle shape. Again, like they did, I believe, in your horsemanship. In the drawing, this doesn't really give you a straightaway to prepare for coming out of your stop or your pivot into the lope, or to prepare for your lead change. So please plan and make these areas here straight rather than just coming in at it on a curve. So you're going to do that. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing. To plan for your simple lead change, again, I'm assuming you're doing a simple lead change, you are going to ask for the trot a little bit before the cone. You're going to keep your horse's head, you're going to keep them collected, keep them in the bit, on contact, shift their weight, ask for the other lead. You're going to lope straight. So if you want to figure out a good tip to keep your lead change and everything straight, when you're here, you are going to stare at something down here. Maybe it's the gate to come in. So probably what it is actually. So you're going to do that. You're going to stare at that, do your simple lead change, continue straight. Then you're going to look ahead, do your curve here. Make sure that this is the same size as this. A lot of horses, especially if they are not shown a ton, are going to want to drift down here because this is the way out and they're going to be tired and want to go home. So you're not going to let them do that. You are going to plan ahead and make this the same size here and here. Once you're even with A, also I should preface, you can make this a little bit like go past the cone straight, like 2 strides, 2 or 3. So that way you have a straight over here too. I should have bumped this down and this up a little bit to move these straight areas further so you have more of a straightaway for your transitions. Basically, you never want to be doing a transition while you are not on like a line, even with your rail or something. Like you need to be in a straight line during your transitions. Break to the walk, walk 2 horse lengths. That is 8 steps in a perfect world. And you are going to stop and back 2 horse lengths. That is again 8 steps in a perfect world. You're then going to turn to the left on the hindquarters, 180, and walk to your exit. I really don't think there's anything too crazy else to say. Just make sure when you're doing your exit, find something to stare at and walk straight towards it, unless of course the ring steward tells you to go to the rail. I would prefer you keep this straight because you are still being judged until you have exited or like exited the arena, you know? If something bad happens, keep showing. It's totally fine. Bad things happen, but you should remain professional while in the show pen. I know you guys will. It'll be great. Have fun. Enjoy the pattern. It's pretty fun.